be a long wait for the Miami game.
Well, and it's been well chronicled this week. This is the first time we've seen all 5 starters on the offensive line together, and they will undoubtedly go the entire first half. We may see some skill position players sort of ease their way out of the lineup, obviously depending on what Atlanta does. Doug said yesterday that if they had early success and got things going, he would get some other guys, but not the offensive line. He needs to see them together. That's one of the big storylines this evening. Let me give you another. As we've come to the end of camp, right? Next week, they will cut the roster and they'll get into a regular season routine, even though there's no game next weekend. But a big storyline is Trevor Lawrence yesterday told us that long practices in pads and arduous, and again, I say arduous with Jeff Lageman sitting not far from me. It's nothing like training camp used to be. But he said it's tough to find a tougher training camp than he believes the Jaguars had. And he backed that up by talking to some of the Buccaneers players who told him that going as hard as they did in pads the day that they practiced against each other last week really wore those guys out. And Trevor's response was, you think this is something? We practiced in pads on Tuesday. So the players believe they have had a very physical camp and that it sets them up well to be a physical team.
And, relative to the way the modern NFL does things, they may have had just that, a physical camp. But as you said, go back 20, 25 years, and those guys scoff at what's going on now. But here's the thing, Brian. It's not like other teams are hitting in 2-a-days and doing all this stuff. I think the Jags probably look at it and say, we're having as physical a training camp as anyone else. As long as we're as equally prepared, if not more prepared than our opponents, we're not gaining – we're not falling behind with a disadvantage. Let's put it that way.
All right, Mike. Let's hear from some of the newsmakers of the week, and we'll start with Doug Peterson, who was asked, what's your approach? What's this third preseason game all about?
This third and final preseason game, we usually let the starters play a little bit more. And again, it depends on the circumstance and the way the game goes, but you'd love to get maybe 2 quarters, out of them. But we do take a look at Atlanta a little bit, and we simulate a game week schedule-wise now that camp is broke, and that's probably the only reason these weeks are important to get the guys no longer in the hotel, they're living at home, transportation here, all that kind of stuff. It simulates and sort of feels like a game week.
Mike, talking to Doug, talking to Press Taylor, talking to Ryan Nielsen, they all stressed this is not a quote-unquote tune-up, which is what you normally hear about the final preseason game. They all were in lockstep, unison, if you will, about how this is just that next step towards building a title contender, a contender for the AFC South title, a contender for a playoff spot to play into January. They're not looking at this as a tune-up. They're going after this hard because they want to be able next week to pick up and take the next step.
Hey, look, and that's fantastic, right? And whatever they need to do to prepare themselves for 17 regular season games and hopefully reclaiming the AFC South, if it works, that's great. My question tonight, Brian, I think in terms of the amount of time we'll see this first team offense in particular out there, what if Trevor Lawrence does what we all hope he does and leads a couple of touchdown drives in the first quarter? Have you seen enough at that point if things are clicking, or do you still want to get those reps behind the first team offensive line? I think that's where it could get interesting tonight.
Well, I know one thing for sure, that they want to see Trevor in as a 2-minute drill. He has not had one of those in a preseason game yet this year, and they want to see a degree of efficiency because they've talked about how Trevor has grasped the offense, how he's worked with press, how he has been so good at various points through training camp, but the 2-minute drill is lacking, and that's something they really want to see.
Well, yeah, and look, the thing of it, though, you can simulate a 2-minute drill anytime you want, right?
Yeah.
If you really want to do that, and you can do it in the middle of the second quarter. It doesn't have to be 2 minutes left on the clock. But I get it. There's going to be some circumstances you're going to try to create a little bit of pressure, see how they respond. There's only so much you can do, though, even in a preseason game. You try to simulate some of it in these training camp practices, but, you just hope whatever it is that you're doing is going to be enough and it carries over for the next 2 weeks.
Well, just stay on Trevor for just a moment here. I asked him yesterday, how do you feel? Because we all remember how last season ended. He had the ankle, he had the knee, he had the shoulder, he had the concussion. How does he feel? And he said that he's not changed a thing, right? Hasn't changed the diet, didn't change the stretching regimen. He's just applied himself more to it to get more out of it, and that he feels great. He feels healthy. He feels prepared. That was the key takeaway. He feels prepared for this season.
It's a big deal, right? I mean, you look at the Jags season kind of pre and post injury with him last year, and they started to accumulate down the stretch, and it really was a different football team. So, again, it goes back to the offensive line. Can they protect Trevor Lawrence? But I think, Brian, anybody who's watched him and seen him in training camp this year, I think he does look a little bit more confident, which you would expect another year in the same system and another year under your belt in the league. But he also looks just a little bit physically bigger. So I don't know if he's changed his workout regimen, maybe just added a few reps at the end of some of his sets. But I think, that's part of the making it through 17 games unscathed. I think he realizes, look, even if you have great offensive line protection, you're occasionally going to take that big hit, and we can't have what happened last year happen this year.
And, one other point of conversation with regard to him, because everyone's talked about him, his leadership, the way he has grasped the offense and made it his own. He wanted to go out of his way to point out other guys in the locker room who have intentionally grabbed a hold of this thing. Not that the coaches, he said, can't do it. He said, but he believes this locker room is ready this year, at this moment in time, for those guys to be able to do it themselves. And he talked about Josh, which makes a lot of sense. But he mentioned there were a number of guys on both sides of the ball that were ready to, and I'm going to use a term that, accountable, right? That hold each other accountable. So he's willing to take it on himself, but he's also pointing out that he isn't the pressure point in the locker room. There are a lot of other guys who are going to do the work.
Well, I think there are three main factors that go into this. One, the way the season ended last year, right? That's been a big talking point this offseason. That feeling of letting it get away when it was right there in our grasp. What can we do to make sure that doesn't happen again? Just the natural maturity. You've got a lot of young players. These guys that are signing their second contracts with the Jags are all in their early to mid-20s still, right? So there's just a natural maturing process. And there's been a lot of talk about the free agent crop that they brought in this year comes primarily across the board from winning organizations, guys that know what it's like to make deep playoff runs, know what kind of commitment it takes. And I think even though they're not going to get up and come to a new team and get up on their soapbox in the locker room, I think that kind of seeps out and permeates just the feeling when you see how these guys go about their business and you know that they've had deep playoff success.
All right, let's dive in on the offensive line just a little bit. As we mentioned, it's the first time we've seen them all together at various points. Ezra Cleveland has sat, so too has Anton Harrison. Both will be in the lineup tonight. So we will see Cam Robinson, Ezra Cleveland, Mitch Morse, Brandon Sheriff, and Anton Harrison. And Press Taylor, the offensive coordinator, took the podium this week to talk about the value of having the offensive line together, even if it's just for a half in the preseason finale.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing of just breaking the huddle, aligning in the huddle next to each other, breaking the huddle, communicating next to each other, and then there's still the timing of game reps, of how fast things happen. And I would still say preseason is not quite the step that regular season is going to be, but it's just one more step in the progress that we want to take to get ready for week one.
Mike,
yeah,
the offensive line probably will not be ready in terms of the cohesion and the things that you look for after a preseason half. But if they can be into a good rhythm early in the season, by the Cleveland game, perhaps by the Bills game, playing good football, it will give this football team a chance to get off to what is a difficult schedule, get off to a good start.
Well, and you look around the NFL, Miami's got a lot of turnover on their offensive line this year as well. That's your week one opponent. So other teams are going through this right now. In fact, I talked with John McClain, who obviously covers the Houston Texans and has for a long, long time. And he said, look, they feel pretty good about their offensive line, but heaven help them if they get a single injury because the depth just isn't there. And, that's the thing. People are looking at this O-line. Is it going to hold up? Did they do enough to improve on what they had last year? I think only time will tell on that, Brian, to be sure. No matter how good they look against what's probably going to be Atlanta backups tonight, we're not going to know. But I will say this, Jaguar fandom really wants to see that kind of performance. That is the thing I think they're on the edge of their seats most about with this team.
We've spent a lot of time focused on Mitch Morse, the new guy in the middle. However, when you talk to the guys on the offensive line and talking to Trevor yesterday, the guy they're all talking about is Anton Harrison. And everybody saw the clip that was on social media of him getting 2 blocks in 1. But they point to his athleticism, his health. Remember last year he had the shoulder. He was not full strength at all season. And earlier this week he talked about being full strength, full mobility. There's a great expectation for the kind of player that Anton Harrison can develop into in his second pro season.
Agreed. I think if you really break it down spot by spot, I think there's a fantastic chance and maybe even a likelihood that Anton Harrison is clearly seen as the best offensive lineman on this team by the end of the season, if he's not already in some ways. You know, sometimes you give the nod to some vets who've been around for a while, and we've only seen it 1 year as a rookie, but that was a rookie season that was marred by injury, Brian. A healthy Anton Harrison, and let's knock on wood that he stays that way, can be a force and maybe, you know, down the line, the eventual blindside protector for Trevor Lawrence, but there's no question they're expecting big things out of him on the right side this year.
All right, let's flip over to the defense. It's a new scheme, and they have been aggressive on the practice field. They have been energetic. They have played with great speed and purpose. When you watch these guys, good adjectives to describe the way that Ryan Nielsen's unit has performed so far. The question this week is, how far along in your install are you? How ready is this defense to be able to go and execute against a regular season offense?
It's always a work in progress. I mean, it's, you know, you always want to get, you know, one play better, one game better, you know, so we're working on the things that that we see that we've got to fix, tweak a little bit, you know, maybe not necessarily fix, but tweak and continue to push the guys' fundamentals, the knowledge of the scheme. Feel like they're doing a great job, the players, our coaching staff, you know, that combination, those guys working in the meetings, things like that, picking things up. Walkthrough was awesome today. You know, those guys were on top of it, really locked in, fired up about the direction that it's going in terms of the whole combination of everything. But, yeah, we're going to keep pushing every day.
And, you know, Brian, I mean, it's great to hear, and I think part of it is you've sprinkled in some vets, guys like Darnell Savage and Ronald Darby in that secondary. But, you know, we still get some new roles with a brand-new defense here, a primarily 4-3 look that maybe a 4-2-5 look a lot of the times. Devin Lloyd and Foye Oluokun kind of flip-flopping positions a little bit. How will that ultimately play out on game day? And we all know, we've seen it many, many times, both for us and against us. All it takes is one blown assignment on defense, and you're giving up a big play. And right out of the gates, you got a team that is loaded with big playmakers in the Miami Dolphins. So it's good to hear that during walkthroughs, they're right on top of it. They need to have that carry over and continue to drill that down over the next several weeks, because you can't be thinking out there. You've got to be understanding and reacting instinctively.
Well, it'll be interesting tonight. Ryan Nielsen famously does not like depth charts. He likes to put guys in different positions and situations. Foye Oluokun will not play this evening. He's one of just a few starters who will not play. And that means Chad Muma, who's been so good on the strong side, will move over and play weak side, and we'll see Yasir Abdullah, who came to the team as a pass rushing threat, but has grown in the role as a Sam linebacker, and he'll start at Sam tonight. Something to watch. One final thought from Mason Smith, the rookie, the second-round draft choice from LSU, who has played very well at times, been unblockable out there. Is he ready to play when the real games begin?
I feel like I'm ready to perform. Just, you know, like I said, taking the advice from the older guys, taking the advice from the coaches, and just continuing to grow. You know, I have no doubt in my capabilities on the field, so just being able to continue to grow and continue to get better.
He's a really interesting young player, and he's got the height, he's got the length, he's got the strength, and apparently, talking to guys out there, he is somebody who has the desire to be a really good football player. You
know, talking to Jeff Logman after each of the last couple of games, he's emphasized, he's done all those things. He's shown you the flashes in practice, that, you know, the ability to win one-on-ones, the strength, the quickness, but feels like he just hasn't quite put it all together yet in the game. And that's an example of a young guy kind of maybe thinking through, what is my assignment? What is my purpose on this particular play? What is being asked of me? When he gets to the point where it just becomes more instinctive, I mean, he's got a rare combination of physical abilities. Going to be exciting to watch, but let's hope that happens sooner rather than later.
All right, there are the top stories of the week. Jags fans, are you Duval enough to become the Jags 2024 Fan of the Year and earn a trip to the Super Bowl? Visit NFL.com/fan of the year. That's NFL.com/fan of the year to nominate someone today. Well, coming up on the Publix Tailgate Show.
He sets the example, but also demands it through each position coach to have us really communicate.
You'll hear from Chad Muma in this week's Baptist Health Player Interview. Plus, CBS Sports senior writer Pete Prisco. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Attention Northeast Florida businesses. The Jaguars and Corporate Traveler are teaming up to bring you the Rising Business Spotlight Program. Get your business in front of 65,000 passionate fans at each Jaguars home game. It's your chance to shine with prime in-stadium exposure, an interactive activation space, and a powerful social media spotlight. Be one of the 6 selected small to medium-sized businesses to be showcased this season. Connect with new audiences like never before. Visit corporatetraveler.us/Jaguars. Don't miss out on this game-changing opportunity with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Corporate Traveler.
Want to make sure he gets to the game on time?
Tommy, your uniform is ready. Let's go.
Install a natural gas dryer, and you're guaranteed faster drying times and softer laundry. And now you can earn a valuable cash rebate up to $200 on an energy-efficient natural gas dryer. Show your home love with natural gas, and it loves you right back. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
Hey Jaguars fans, sack those snack cravings with Dippin' Dots, the original Beat It ice cream brand. Grab a cup of your favorite flavor or discover a new flavor from one of the Dippin' Dots locations right here at EverBank Stadium. Get ready to taste the fun with Dippin' Dots.
I want my Dippin' Dots.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
Publix Tailgate Show, Brian and Mike. I am in Atlanta. Mike is in the Hyundai Studios. Back at the Miller Electric Center, we have the Jaguars and Falcons preseason action, Week 3 here at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. And Mike, you caught up with Pete Prisco, who has been around the National Football League visiting training camps for the last couple of weeks to check back in on his former hometown team.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And interestingly enough, Pete, before we sat down for the interview, said, he was a little disappointed. We got preseason wrapping up, then we have to wait 2 weeks. I'm like, Pete, enjoy a weekend off because pretty soon we're not going to have any of those. And I think he thought better of it. But, I wanted to get Pete's thoughts on basically what he's going to look for tonight when the Jags take the field against the Falcons.
Look, they're not going to be playing against starters, so it's going to be a hard situation to really gauge how good they'll look or how bad they'll look. But if they don't look good, it's going to be a major problem. But I'm with you. I think it's good to see the first team get out there together, and particularly the offensive line. I think that's one of the most important things. Get that group together, let them hit some people, and then move on to the regular season.
All right, Pete, let's take a quick look back at last week. Really the Mac Jones coronation as the backup quarterback here. Played well, came back off the bench, padded those stats in the fourth quarter after C.J. Beathard got the groin injury. Just compared to last year, how do you feel about the Jags' backup quarterback situation? Do you feel Mac Jones is a significant improvement over C.J. Beathard?
I do, and I think they do, which is why they went and made the decision. I mean, there was a lot of people in that building, and probably many of them, that they forced Trevor Lawrence forced himself back out there quicker than he should have been last year, in large part because they were concerned about the backup quarterback situation. So I think having a guy like Mac Jones who looks comfortable, looks like he can step in for a couple games and lead the team, I think that's real a confidence builder for the offense that you know that if Trevor Lawrence, you don't want him to get hurt, but if he does, you can go a couple games and make it through with a guy like Mac Jones, who looks, look, I still think he's a backup quarterback in the league, but he looks comfortable playing in Jacksonville.
All right, Pete, let's get to tonight's action. You mentioned the offensive line. What do you want to see out of this starting five when they play together tonight for the first time in the preseason?
The middle of the offensive line has to be good. They have to be able to get push in the middle. They have to be able to run the football. By that, I mean, when you need to run it, run it. But again, I think that's been a problem for them for a long time. So, you address it with Mitch Morse. The guards have to be better, but they have to be able to run the football in the middle of the offensive line. They also have to be able to protect Trevor Lawrence because the deep balls can be there. And, Brian Thomas has really come on in the last couple of weeks. I think the ability to stretch the defense is important. You can back them off. They can't load up against the run, and I think that's something that they're going to do. So I want to see them run the football in the middle of the offensive line, pound people when you need to, and then take those shots down the field and get that rookie involved in a deep passing game.
Yeah, and I think they'd like to do that. How much do you need to see Trevor tonight? I know Doug Peterson said you may see the starters up to a half, but if Trevor Lawrence comes out and leads this offense to a couple of scoring drives in the first quarter, is that enough for you?
Yeah, I'd get him out of there. I mean, just let him get work together with the group he's going to take the field with on opening day. A couple series. If he, leads them to a couple TD drives, then get him out of there because you don't want to risk that injury, Mike. That's the one thing. You have to come out of this game healthy, or at least basically healthy, and try to get on with the regular season. So I wouldn't risk it. And if he does play well for a couple series, get him out of there and let the backup go in.
Speaking of injuries, Christian Kirk dealing with a calf strain right now. No indication that it's going to be something that impacts his regular season. But, Pete, if it does at any point, whether it's this injury or something else that crops up, how much more confidence do you have that Parker Washington is ready to really step in and contribute this year?
Mike, I'm glad you asked that because the kid looked like an NFL receiver in the training camp and preseason. He really has. He looks like a different guy, and he's a perfect case study on what young receivers do. They come into the league, their head's spinning. There's so many different coverages. Instead of playing fast, they're thinking too much, and they're not just playing like they normally would. And I think we see a different guy because he's not thinking as much. He's playing much more confidently. He understands the passing game. You can see it in the way he runs his routes. And if he had to step in and be the slot receiver for a couple games, I don't think that, look, Christian Kirk is a big part of what they do. He's better than Washington, but they wouldn't have a great drop-off there, I don't believe.
All right, let's swing over to the defense, Pete. We know that Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker coming back, the most combined sacks of any duo in the league last year with 27.5. Where else do they get the pass rush? Is there enough on this roster right now to convince you that the pass rush collectively will be better than it was last year?
Well, I think the key will be the run defense. And if you stop the run and put them in third and longs, that's going to make those pass rushers that much better. And we know over the last couple of years they've had problems in the run game. So I think it's important that the guys in the middle of that defense, play well. Whether, Hamilton coming off the injury, when Armstead gets back on the field, they have to be able to stop the run. And I think, look, that kind of mentality starts even in the preseason. And if you're Devon Hamilton and guys like that, you got to step in there and stop the run. Roy Robertson-Harris, something's going on with him. He hasn't been, he's been playing late into the preseason games with backups. And so maybe he's trying to, they're trying to send a message to him. But those guys need to be better. If they're better, they stop the run, put them in passing situations. I think that's how you help your pass rush.
And one final thought here on the secondary, particularly the coverage corners. Ryan Nielsen wants to play press. You've got week one coming up rapidly with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on the horizon. Are you confident that this group of defensive backs, but particularly the corners, are up to what Ryan Nielsen is going to ask of them in this defense?
Well, Ronald Darby plays well in that kind of situation. That's what he does. So he fits the scheme, but age starts to become a concern. I know he's had a good camp and a good summer, so that's a good sign. Campbell, all along, you paid him like a number one corner. It's time for him to go out there and show he can do it. Against Miami, that's an entirely different animal. We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. But you play those guys in man coverage, they get by you, they're gone. And so that's scary from that standpoint. But in terms of what you want to do on the season, if that's what you want to do, those guys have to hold up. It's going to be a real challenge for them to do it.
All right, he is Pete Prisco, CBS Sports senior NFL writer. Pete, I know a little downtime coming up before the season kicks off, but we got one final weekend of preseason action. Like you said, let's keep them healthy and get ready to roll in a couple of weeks. Thanks for the time as always, buddy.
You got it, Mike. Take care.
All right, so there's Pete Prisco just weighing in with a few thoughts. And I think, Brian, he, like me, doesn't need to see a ton from Trevor Lawrence. The coaching staff may have a different opinion tonight. As you said, they want to see some different scenarios, maybe a 2-minute drill. Even if they get that early offense, we may see them play the majority of the first half.
Well, look, you're right. You can create a 2-minute drill anytime you want. Just go into a huddle. And so perhaps they'll get that done. I got the sense, kind of like Pete was alluding to, is if he goes out there against backups, guys fighting for roster spots in Atlanta, then has some early success, Doug will see enough, and we'll move on and focus on other guys. So, and we expect to see, by the way, Mac Jones the entire second half. Probably not going to see much, if any, E.J. Perry this evening. This week's player interview is presented by Baptist Health. Changing healthcare for good. He's a guy you will see plenty of. And his linebacker, Chad Muma, who is adjusting to the new 3-4 scheme brought by new defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen. He looks at home on the strong side based on what we saw for him last Saturday against Tampa and appreciates the chance to keep getting better and to earn his spot on the field.
Yeah, it's just been a lot of learning. I feel like, when I first moved to it, being an outside linebacker is a little bit different technique that you have to work and use. And so I think that OTA time that we had was really beneficial towards me, just being able to work those techniques. And even in training camp, when you put the pads on, even that's different. So it's just been a lot of learning, but feeling better each day.
Now, they've also got you on the depth chart at Mike linebacker. So how is the balance there in terms of knowing them both, but playing one specifically or the other?
Yeah, no, it's been good. I feel like I've always been able to, play a couple positions that they need me to be at. And so being able to learn the inside linebacker position as well has been huge. Lots of learning OTAs, new defense, new scheme, but feeling more and more confident each day, like I said before.
How much more confident do you feel in year 3? How much did the first 2 years, different system, I get it, but how much did it prepare you to succeed in year 3? Yeah,
a different system, like you said, but it's a lot of learning more specifically about what offenses do in the NFL and really looking at, okay, in certain situations, how is the offense going to attack this defense, this coverage, things of that nature. And so I think the game's slowing down even more coming year 3, and you're just able to play a little bit faster.
Tell me about the scheme and Ryan Nielsen, who's come in this year. First of all, he seems to be a great communicator. How much does it help to have a coach who's so clear about what he wants?
Oh, it's awesome. And I think his clear message, he repeats it every single day for us to hear. And so I think there's no confusion there of what type of defense that we're going to be. And, one thing that he said, I'm sure he said it to you guys, is we're going to be attacking aggressive each day. And, we're going to win that pre-snap. And so those are kind of those cues that we take to each day. And we try and treat each day like a game day almost. You want to line up, adjust, play fast, and make those plays. And so it's attacking everything that you see, being aggressive on that ball. And, we talk about our keys to victory as well. And he's very clear on, all those parts of the game.
Maybe I'm just seeing things, but after listening to him the first time in the spring during OTAs, I came out here and I heard you guys. It seemed like you guys were communicating at a much higher level. Does he demand that, or does he just set the example?
Oh, no, I feel like he sets the example, but also demands it through each position coach to have us really communicate. Matt House has done a great job of letting us linebackers really be communicative out there with the whole defense, because whenever you're communicating on the same page, it allows you to play even faster, like I said before.
Jeff Lageman was saying the other day that he believes that this might be the deepest group on the team, the linebacking group. When you're in the meeting room, do you see that?
Oh, no, definitely. I think, each guy brings so much to the linebacker room, and having a vet like Foye where he has his game knowledge, bringing in there that guys can ask questions. And also Devin and I being year 3 now, we're able to help out those young guys as well a little bit here and there. So, you definitely feel the depth in that room. You feel the communication going on, and, we bring up stuff that we're able to kind of go beyond that certain play and really talk about everything to certain different plays, different schemes, whatever it may be.
Final thought, I saw in Laramie, Wyoming, it was 57 degrees this morning. How does a Wyoming boy, are you used to this heat and humidity at this point, or do you just block it out?
I mean, at this point, yeah, a little bit more used to it. But the first year when I got out here after I grew up in Denver, went to Laramie, Wyoming for school. First year came out here, the humidity was getting me, and I was run one play and you're just dead and you're tired. And even then, I say that, but at the beginning of training camp, you feel it a little bit, but you get used to it pretty quick.
Mike, I asked Ryan Nielsen yesterday about Muma, and asked him why is it in his 3rd year that he has grasped onto a job and looks like he's making it his own. And he's responsible, but part of it's him, right? Part of it's a guy who has worked through and learned over the last couple of years, gotten his body into a position where he doesn't bother him, where he's able to go perform. But the other side of it, and the interesting part of it is, it's the system. It's the scheme that they put together that is simple. And ask them just to know what their job is, and there's no gray area. And he says those two things combined have got a player they're really excited about.
Oh, yeah, it's great when you can just, again, play without having any confusion, know what your role is. And, look, he's coming into his third year, Brian, as a third-round draft pick. That's a pretty significant investment in this guy. So I would hope that Chad Muma is ready to deliver on that promise. And, based on what we've seen and heard, when they are in the full base defense, he will be the strong side linebacker. He's going to be the primary backup in that group across the board, I think. And let's just hope that he continues a good play, because we've seen him flash in each of the first 2 preseason games.
All right, Mike. Coming up in about 15 minutes, Tony Baselli and Jeff Lageman join us from this broadcast booth at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. And coming up after the break.
Listen, that's where it starts, with the character of a person.
That's cornerback coach Corey Robinson, and he's worked with defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen and knows what's important for him and his defense. And we talk about that next. The Jags and Falcons coming up in preseason Week 3 action. This is the Publix Tailgate Show. You're listening to Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Tackle your marketing needs with Kessler Creative. Providing direct mail services for more than a decade, Kessler has a wide range of services from small mailers to large banners and signs. Draft Kessler as your first pick to receive the best targeted mail list. Elevate your business and be on the winning team with Kessler Creative. Kessler Creative, results-driven marketing and proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars. Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in Miami and Houston. Watch them win in Philly, Detroit, Nashville, and Las Vegas. All the other Jaguars games are just one short connection away. And if airport parking has you stressed, be sure to visit the Jax Airport website before traveling to the terminal. On it, you'll find information about the status of on-airport parking in real time. See if your favorite areas are available or if you need to call an audible. Visit flyjax.com for more information.
The kick is up. It's good!
Score winning sub deals this Jaguar season at Firehouse Subs. Buy a medium hook and ladder sub and get a medium hook and ladder sub free when the Jaguars kick a field goal of 40 yards or more.
It's a bold deal for the bold city.
Download the Firehouse Subs app for offer details. Redeemable only at participating Jacksonville and Orlando area restaurants. Only available in the Firehouse Subs app.
Headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, CSI Companies partners with leading healthcare and technology organizations nationwide to deliver workforce solutions. CSI prides itself on building meaningful relationships and provides personalized operations to fuel the success of businesses, both big and small. Whether it's finding the right talent for a job or seamlessly managing a project from start to finish, CSI has 3 decades of experience in getting the job done. This is your workforce solutions reimagined. Visit CSICompanies.com.
Hey fans, it's Tyson Campbell, cornerback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This season, your game day is getting even tastier with Al's Pizza in the stadium. And every time we get a pick, you'll score. If the Jaguars get 1 interception, you'll enjoy buy one, get one free pizza at any Al's Pizza location Monday through Thursday after the home game. 2 interceptions, a free dessert. And 3 interceptions, that's a free appetizer. Just tell them you want the Jags pick. Up your game and get your Al's Pizza at the game or any of their locations.
We're back in both Atlanta and the Hyundai Studios in Jacksonville. This is the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. Jaguars and Falcons in preseason Week 3 action coming up at 7 o'clock from the Mercedes-Benz, I want to say Dome. It's Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Cornerbacks coach Corey Robinson, high-energy coach, who, as you're about to hear, is a top-shelf communicator, just like his defensive coordinator. Robinson, who worked with Ryan Nielsen when the two were in New Orleans, sets a high standard for his room because Nielsen sets a high standard for the defense. So I asked Corey about the trio of young cornerbacks he's worked with for the past month and how he sees them stacking up to that standard both this evening and into the season.
It starts with Ryan, right? And just, again, establishing the identity and the culture of what we're going to be defensively and our play style. And then, fortunately, we've worked together before. So we have examples on tape to back up kind of what we're saying and what we're preaching, because these guys are got visual learners, right? And then also you just got guys that are just good dudes, right? They've drafted well, they've signed well, personnel wise, and brought in the right type of people. And I think when you have all those different things, it adds up for good results. And these are just a hungry group of guys that want to get better, love being coached, love playing the game of football, love playing for each other. And so that would be what I contributed to.
You've worked at every level, high school, college, and the pros. How important is that good dude thing? Where you get the kind of people, they have to be able to play, obviously, but the kind of people that work together, they work with their coach well, and then they're internally motivated to be their best every time they come out here, not waste anyone's time.
No, absolutely, man. I mean, listen, that's where it starts, with the character of a person. And we always talk about football doesn't develop character, it can expose it, though, right? Well, I think it does both, because it's a game it's a microcosm of life. So these guys have been in the game, been in it for a long time. They develop the good traits that you want in people, and it just translates to being good football players. And at every level, it's been the same for me. In college football recruiting, it's been the same thing, you know what I mean? Just looking for, good people, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, good football players, but good people, because I'm not just in it for football myself. I'm in it, we're going to spend all this time together. Let's become better men. Let's become better students of the game. Let's become better fathers, brothers, people in society. And when you just have people that have that mindset, again, when you start talking football in those specifics, it just, again, lends to them being better learners and just better people to embrace it.
The guy that you have at the top of the depth chart is one of those, and Tyson Campbell. Tell me what you saw from him before you started working with him and what it's been like to work with him on a daily basis in camp.
Yeah, so he was a guy that I was high on coming out of college. Liked him a lot, even when I was at my previous place. And so, just the intangibles, again, just a good-hearted person, unselfish, humble, you know what I mean? The day he signed his contract, nobody in the world would have known, except for the fact that it was everybody in the world knew because of the media. But nothing's changed about that guy. Just comes to work every day. You know what you're going to get. And again, just the love he has for his teammates, it's incredible. He comes and asks questions like he's a rookie. You know what I mean? Hey, coach, how did I do in that rep? And so when you have a guy like that, man, you number one, you're just happy for him and you just want to see him do well. But also, there's a lot of expectancy of that player to continue to do well for the rest of his career.
The guy on the other side, I don't know as well because he's a free agent, just came in. But everything I hear about him is he's the kind of teammate that you want. Tell me your impressions of Ronald Darby.
Yeah, absolutely. Unbelievable young man. He's another one that I've actually had some history with, known him since he was in high school. He's always been the same. You can't tell he's in year 10. He's not a know-it-all. He's a guy, again, wants to be coached, embraces his teammates. They've embraced him back. And we joke, man, he's running around like this is year 5. You don't see a 10-year veteran in this guy, man. He's still got a lot of juice, a lot of energy. He's funny, charismatic. So, again, he's just another good one, man, that we picked up.
Let's wrap it up with a thought on Ryan Nielsen, who you've worked with before. He's a great communicator. You are a great communicator, and your players have communicated more than I've seen around here in recent years. Tell me the importance of communication for this defense and for you as a coach.
Absolutely. It starts with pre-snap, winning the pre-snap. So pre-snap communication is something that we stress. And in order to communicate, number one, you must be knowledgeable, right? You must understand the topic. So the topic is football. So we ask these guys to champion the scheme, right, to get in the playbook, to make sure that they're being the best students that they can. Like when we come in our meeting room, man, you got 2 eyes, you got 2 ears, let's utilize it. This is a time to lock in. And so then when you're put, to the test, right, when the ball snaps, you know where to go, what to do, and how to do it. And same thing in how you respond, right? We ask those questions throughout the course of the meeting, always looking for feedback, open dialogue. And like you said, it starts with Ryan, a very effective communicator. And when you can communicate effectively from the top, everybody understands the expectations, and no one's unclear and uncertain. And that's where you can get everybody moving in the same direction when the communication is clear.
Let's end on this it's fun to watch this defense. Is it fun from your perspective to watch these guys play?
Absolutely. Having a blast. You can't beat Jacksonville, Florida, this weather. Excited about, getting out there with the fans and having everybody just, watch this team and embrace this team. I'm excited.
Well, Mike, they've got an interesting blend of young guys and veterans in that secondary. And Corey Robinson and Chris Richard, who is widely considered to be one of the best secondary coaches in football, they got their work cut out for them, especially with opening day in Miami. But for the first time in a couple of years, it feels like they've got some pieces to work with.
Well, yeah, and I think for me, the most exciting new piece is Ronald Darby, clearly here, Brian. I think the question has always been with Darby, will he hold up? And that's still got to play out over the course of the year. But when healthy, he's excelled in press coverage. But I think a lot of people thought Jarian Jones would come in and compete for his spot right away, and I think it's been pretty clear that Darby has been one of the better players in the secondary all throughout camp. I thought he started off really fantastic and established himself that he was going to be the guy opposite Tyson Campbell. But going back to all the discussion there with you and Corey Robinson on communication, we know what happens when you get guys that are not communicating well with their responsibilities. It leads to big plays. So it's good to hear that they feel like they've got a great concept of what they're trying to do here as they blend young guys like Campbell and Cisco and Antonio Johnson in there with vets like Savage and Darby.
I was going to say one more note about the secondary, and that is we will see Darnell Savage this evening. He's a guy that's probably the starting nickel. He plays both, according to Dave Campo, who I know you talked to as well, plays zone and man in the middle of the field about as well as anybody he has seen. And Dave Campo has a long history with defensive backs. He's a guy I think they're really excited about in Jacksonville.
Yeah, another one of these guys who's been around a winning organization. He's been a playmaker. He's got positional flexibility. So, right, and, kind of a guy who's a little bit under the radar right now because we haven't seen him much except in that red non-contact jersey, which he was just able to shed. So, definitely have an eye on him tonight.
All right, that'll do it for this segment. If you're looking for the MVP of the truck game, better check out the 2024 Ford F-150, loaded with impressive capability and game-changing tech. You can dominate work, play, and everything in between. Test drive an F-150 at your local Ford dealer. They're a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, coming up at the top of the hour, it's hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show. And when we return, Jeff Lageman and Tony Baselli are with us with first rounds on us. The Jaguars and Falcons kick off at 7 in preseason action. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Brooks Rehabilitation is proud to be the official rehabilitation partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We are here for them, and we are here for you. Ranked #1 physical rehabilitation hospital in Florida by U.S. News and World Report, our playbook is individualized treatment and exceptional care to get you back to living your life. Brooks has cutting-edge technology and therapy solutions in every care setting, treating sports injury, orthopedics, brain, spinal injuries, and more. Go beyond your expectations with Brooks Rehabilitation.
Maximize your energy savings with a new energy-efficient heating and cooling system from Florida Home Air Conditioning, and you could save up to $4,500 through possible tax credits and other discounts. Purchase a new system today, and Florida Home Air Conditioning will buy back your old inefficient HVAC system. Request your complimentary consultation from Florida Home Air Conditioning, the official air conditioning partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Visit FloridaHomeAC.com for details, terms, and conditions.
License number CMC 1250399, CFC 1430664, EC 130-08557.
Ancient City Brewing is celebrating 30 years of Jags football by becoming the proud craft beer partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And what better way to celebrate a throwback year than to throw back some of their expertly crafted beers? From Augustine's Orange Amber Ale to their Castillo Coconut Porter, there's always something new to discover at Ancient City Brewing, including the new First and Gold Golden Ale, coming soon to a Duval County store near you. Ancient City Brewing, Taste history, make history, and please always drink responsibly.
Jaguars fans, huddle up. Do you own a vehicle made in the last 10 years? If your car is outside of factory warranty or with no warranty coverage, get the best defense against expensive auto repairs with CarShield, the official auto protection partner of the Jaguars. With plans to fit every budget, CarShield helps you cover up to 5,000 parts and systems. Call 800-471-1223 now or go to carshield.com/Jaguars. That's 800-471-1223. Coverage varies by plans. View contracts and exclusions at carshield.com.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
And we're back on the Publix Tailgate Show. Final segment of hour number 1. JP Shadrick and Mike Dempsey are with you at the top of the hour for hour number 2. Time now for First Rounds on Us. All right. I have below me, in a very literal sense, Jeff Lageman.
What's up,
Tony
Brian?
Baselli. Guys, how are you?
What's going on, my friend? Sitting right behind us.
Well, I've got a good question for you tonight for our Ancient City Brewing Company Taste History, Make History, First Rounds on Us.
Mm-hmm.
We call it Finding Solutions normally, presented by the University of Florida. You guys may have heard they're the #1 university in the UNESCO News and World Report prospect, #1 state for education. Have you heard that before?
My wife would agree.
Okay. That's good. She's
I
game.
wouldn't. Just joking.
#1. So instead of calling it Finding Solutions, find a problem for me. There's a cut down next week. There'll be players flooding the market. Is there a problem on this roster? Maybe problem is a strong word, but is there a spot that you would be looking at if you're the general manager, the head coach, thinking what's out there? How can I improve my roster?
I think you're always looking. If I had to pick, I'll go defensive side of the ball because I know where Tony's going to go. I'll say cornerback. I think you're really young at cornerback, and if there's another veteran corner that is somehow available, you've got a lot of young guys that you have some confidence in, but they're not proven. You're in win now mode, and you've got a couple guys that you brought into the safety position, and you brought in Darby at the corner spot, but man, it sure would be nice having one more.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff was assuming I'd go to the offensive line.
I know you're going to the offensive line.
I just don't think you're going to get that guy in the cut down. I don't think very many people allow.
Yeah, but if you could, you would.
But I don't think they can, is my point. And I think we talked about this, we've talked about it through the week. If you look at the numbers right now, based on how I believe they rank the offensive line, they're going to let go. A guy like Blake Hance probably is not making it. And so the question is, if he's not going to make it, let's just assume that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say he's the odd man out. That means you have to go find a player better than Blake Hance out in the market who's cut to replace one of those guys. Because you obviously think Blake Hance isn't as good as, a Fortner or a Lanahan or any of these guys.
Okay.
And so you have to find someone better than Blake Hance. I don't think that guy's going to exist.
Maybe not.
Out in the open market.
Maybe not. It's going to be interesting, though. I think it's going to be a very interesting cut. I mean, the offensive line that Tony's alluding to with Van Lanen performing as he has.
He had a great camp.
Tackles. I mean, I think he's one of the highest-rated players according to PFF, and we saw what that does for you last year. Elijah Cooks was the highest-rated PFF player, wide receiver in the National Football League, and he ended up making the team. So it's going to be an interesting cut down. I think the most interesting position is cornerback in my mind. I think offensive line is interesting just from a number standpoint. Is it going to be 9 or is it going to be 10? And if it's 10, you better have some players that are worthy of keeping there at 10 because that's a big number.
You have to keep a spot, by the way, for Javon Foster, right?
Oh, yeah, you're not going to cut a 4th-round pick.
Right. And also because he's played well, Tony, right?
Okay, let's just do the numbers. You have your starting 5.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we understand is that obviously Walker Little is your swing, and that Luke Fortner's here as your backup center.
I might put Walker Little in as my starting left tackle.
Okay, timeout. Right now, he is.
Just throwing that out there.
Would you agree, though, it's a starting 5, Walker Little, Fortner, for sure? That's 7.
Yes.
They're not getting rid of Cooper Hodges. He's 8.
I would put him in the 7.
But I'm just saying they're not. I know where you're going with this. Hodges is. Let's just say he's not. He's here.
Okay.
We just said Van Lanen had the best camp of anybody.
That's 9.
He's there. So the only way you're keeping Foster,
he's 10,
is you're keeping 10. And if you keep 10 offensive linemen, you have to let somebody else go. And if you look at those 10, you're looking at 2 young developmental players in those 10. Foster and Cooper Hodges, guys who've never played a snap in a
real game. Okay.
And so basically 20% of the guys you're keeping at the offensive line position you would deem as developmental more, probably not counting on them the first half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And so that limits what you can do. And I think that's why a guy like Blake Hansen is probably going to be the odd man out.
But, guys, you can also, and greetings here from the Hyundai Studios in Jacksonville, Miller Electric Center. You can, maybe get a guy like Shatley or whomever over to the practice squad and, have some of that veteran backup experience, so to speak, right?
I agree with that, Mike. Yeah, I think Shatley's going to be on the practice squad.
Right, so you can.
I think they'll try to keep Blake Hansen on the practice squad. I just don't think he makes it.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I think they may have a hard. I mean, from just watching the performance. And the way kind of situation we're talking now, Blake Hansen doesn't make it.
That's right.
If you've got Blake Hansen, Shatley, I don't know if I'm and if I've got Fortner on my active roster, then I'm not going to keep Shatley on my practice squad. I would go with a younger developmental player because I mean, what is this for Shatley? It would be year 11 this year, And to be honest with you, if you look at his performance in the preseason this year. It's been okay, but he doesn't move very well anymore. Not that that was one of his strong suits, but it's not. He's not moving at the level I think that you would be comfortable saying, "Hey, look, he's going to be a practice squad."
I think he makes the practice squad, Jeff, because I don't think Blake Hansen makes it there. I think someone else picks him up.
The one thing that I think changed with Blake Hansen is pretty interesting. At the beginning of camp, he was arguably one of the most physical players in camp. And then all of a sudden, this elbow sleeve brace showed up on him. And then his level of play went down. And so there's got to be a direct correlation between this sleeve thing on the arm showing up with Blake Hansen because it's not the same player that it was earlier in camp.
All right, guys, I think everybody in Jaguar fandom is going to be watching that offensive line to see how they perform tonight. First time we'll see the starting 5 together, but let's assume they have a decent night. What are you looking for from the first-team offense in terms of how long you want to see them go? With Doug Peterson saying maybe they'll play up to a half. If they have a rip-roaring first quarter, is that enough for you?
Yes. I mean, here's the issue. I don't want to see our first unit for the whole first half. And the reason why I don't, they're going against second and third teamers with the Atlanta Falcons. I mean –
So
it totally rained on my parade when the Atlanta Falcons said we're not playing our guys.
Well, and here's the thing. This is what I wouldn't say worry about, but if you're trying to make a judgment and gauge kind of where you are. If you're the Jacksonville Jaguars going out there with your first unit, both offense and defense, you're playing against second and third teamers in the first half.
And some guy trying to be a hero.
For Atlanta. Forget about that part. If you don't dominate – you better go dominate because you're playing against the guys who aren't going to be playing in the league this year. If you don't dominate, is there a panic that comes out like, oh no? If it's a close first half, kind of back and forth.
Well, how would you feel about that?
I wouldn't feel good.
Okay, there you go.
I'm saying it's really a no-win situation because if you go score 3 straight drives, to answer your question, Mike, if the offense goes out there, the first 3 drives goes down there, goes touchdown, field goal, or 3 scores, whatever it is. Then get him out.
Get him out.
It's like what are you getting out of it at that point?
I want to not notice the offensive line. I want to see Trevor be clean.
Well, he should be. You're playing against
and
backups.
then I don't want to see again. I brought this term up. I said I don't want to see a hero. Okay,
Nope.
Atlanta Falcon guy trying to make the roster, trying to make an impression.
You're gonna
all of
see
a sudden
that.
does a little bit extra. I don't want to see that.
Speaking a little bit extra, every week in this segment, I'm about to wrap it up so I can hit the point and get out on time.
Yeah.
And every week Tony comes in and he jumps in with one last
Well,
thought.
they
So
just need to build in
now
a little extra time.
Now that I'm here, I can say thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
It's always a good point, though, Brian.
No, Tony, it's never not been a good point. I get that. It's just sometimes
it's too long.
We got to go to break.
I got you.
All right, fellas, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Have a good broadcast. Send it to break, knowing that JP Shadrick is stepping in to the studio to join Mike Dempsey. Enjoy hour 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 of our presentation this evening. You're listening to Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips. Delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages. And you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at EverBank Stadium because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQval for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbq.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Who will your child grow up to be? Well, that depends on all of us. That's why, along with our groundbreaking medical care, Nemours Children's Health supports programs that address issues like food insecurity and the resources essential to learning. It's all part of creating a healthier future for all children. So they can grow up to be whoever they want to be. Nemours Children's Health. Well beyond medicine.
Everyone wins when two great traditions team up. Yucatan Guacamole is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Our authentic guacamole recipe starts with hand-scooped avocados and ends up in your hands fresh and ready to enjoy. Grab some on game day at the Yucatan Cantina or Yucatan nacho carts around the stadium or at local retail stores. Sack your snack game with Yucatan Guacamole.
We need to define a great deal in today's new home market because the so-called great deals that you find on every corner just aren't the same as the incredible opportunities you'll find with a new Dreamfinders home. How about 2.99% in year one in one of Dreamfinders' 15 communities across North Florida? Now that's a great deal. 2.99% interest rate in year one and a beautiful new Dreamfinders home. Visit DFHSalesEvent.com for our largest savings of the year on move-in ready homes. That's DFHSalesEvent.com.
Big Number 1 Duval Ford is trusted by Duval families, Duval businesses, and law enforcement across Florida. We are Jacksonville's largest Ford dealer by Ford sales, with the biggest service facility to keep everything in your driveway on the road. Shop Big Number 1 Duval Ford on Cassett Avenue for our low prices and nationally recognized service-first experience. Big Number 1 Duval Ford, proudly serving Duval since 1916.
Welcome to the Publix Tailgate Show. JP Shadrick, Mike Dempsey, and Brian Sexton have all the news and information to get you ready for today's game.
Into the end zone, touchdown!
The Publix Tailgate Show is brought to you by the University of Florida, Farah and Farah, Yucatan Guacamole, Baptist Health, and by EverBank. The Publix Tailgate Show starts right now.
And it's hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. 2 hours away from preseason week 3 as the Jaguars meet the Atlanta Falcons at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, downtown Atlanta. Kickoff just past 7 o'clock. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey. We're at the Hyundai Studios at the Miller Electric Center in Jacksonville. And, all right, the preseason's coming to a close, but this is the big dress rehearsal game for the Jaguar starters, getting nearly a half or so in tonight's game. They had 9 snaps in week 1 of the preseason. They had the joint practices against the Bucs, but this one for real will maybe tell us a little bit more than we already know.
I would think so, JP, and definitely my audience this week is most interested in how the offensive line performs. First time we'll see the starting five together, and may go beyond the rest of the offensive starters here to get a look at what Mac Jones looks like behind that line as well. And, for me, one of the things I want to see is them creating some holes to where, Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby are not getting hit at the line of scrimmage, or they're not having a 4-yard game because they made two people miss in the backfield, right? Let's see if we can get some push up front, particularly against the backups tonight. And let's let Trevor Lawrence and company, and the defense as well, but particularly I think we want to see this quarterback get off to a great start to the season tonight. Not a lot of reps, as you said, in the first preseason game. And tonight's a bit of a mystery bag, right? They could play up to a half, but if they get on a roll early, do you say enough's enough? You look at last night with the Colts, Anthony Richardson, if you stopped after one drive, he was 7 of 8 for 65 yards and a touchdown. The next 4 drives combined, he completed one pass for 21 yards and threw a pick 6 and had a fumble, right?
Sure.
So you felt great, then you felt, oh, no. Right? So it's not that you want to disguise what this team is capable of doing. It's just I think if you reach a certain point against the Atlanta second stringers, you probably will have seen enough.
Game day weather is brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water, it's worth saving. Isolated thunderstorms here in Jacksonville. We heard one on the roof here a moment ago in downtown, but it has passed on through for the moment. Mid-80s currently, and storms expected off and on for the next couple hours in the Jacksonville area. Here are some of the top stories for tonight's game. The Jaguars and the Falcons, the starters getting significant playing time tonight for the Jags. Head coach Doug Peterson's approach to this game and the week of prep.
Let the starters play a little bit more, and again, it depends on the circumstance and the way the game goes, but you'd love to get maybe 2 quarters, out of them. But we do take a look at Atlanta a little bit, and we simulate a game week schedule-wise now that camp is broke, and that's probably the only reason these weeks are important to get the guys no longer in the hotel, they're living at home, transportation here, all that kind of stuff. It simulates and sort of feels like a game week.
Quarterback Trevor Lawrence getting the start tonight. His approach to the week and the game this evening.
You want to play clean, and obviously it's never going to be perfect. It's football. There's going to be some mistakes and things are going to happen, but that always feels good, when you come out of a preseason game and you felt like whether it's 1 series or it's 4 or 5 series, you just felt like you were sharp, on the same page, communicated. The ball went where it was supposed to go. You're on time. I feel like I'm seeing the field well. It's probably different for everybody and based on their position of kind of what they want to accomplish, but treat it like a real game. I think that's one of the bigger things, is especially this week where I'm going to be playing more.
So that's Doug Peterson's philosophy. Starters, get out there and play some. We want to see you on the field playing actual football games. Trevor Lawrence, as we said, 9 snaps in week 1.
Hey, look, I think multiple paths can be successful here, right? There are going to be teams that hold their players out in the preseason that get off to great starts, and there are going to be teams that hold them out and struggle early on. And really, I think the results that you get in the regular season kind of justify, did you do it the right way? But Doug Peterson's a Super Bowl winning coach. He knows his team better than we know his team, and he has a feel for what it's going to take to have them ready. And I appreciate the fact, I think it's a good thing that we're seeing the starters in week 3 because we still have 2 more weeks to go.
Yeah, the offensive line starting 5 playing in a game together for the first time, of course, in this preseason. Offensive coordinator Press Taylor this week discussed the development of that offensive line group as a whole.
We do feel very good about the progress we've made in both aspects, but particularly the run game, of just our targeting, our identification, of what we're trying to get accomplished, of getting essentially 11 guys on the exact same page with every single look we see. In terms of moving a defender from point A to point B, that's the part that you're not 100% sure you've been able to see yet, other than when we get in these games. And we haven't played all 5 of our guys together at the same time yet, or our anticipated 5. That's something that we'll continue to see. Again, we have time moving into week 1 before we get ready for that, but we're confident in where we're headed with that.
Right tackle Anton Harrison, a big part of that process and progress on the line, entering year 2, healthy off that shoulder injury last year and ready for a big step this year.
I'd say for me the biggest thing is really just that confidence. Coming in rookie year to second year, just knowing what I'm coming into. I really had a real offseason to prepare. Don't have to worry about the draft, combine, and all that. So having a real offseason definitely helped me a lot too. I feel great. Don't got to worry about anything, 100%, ready to go. I can throw my arms fully, punch fully, don't got to hesitate, not second-guessing, just going out to play ball.
All right, Anton Harrison's the young guy on that line. There are a lot of veteran players, certainly on the front line of things here. Morse in the middle, of course, Sheriff at right guard. Ezra Cleveland's been in the league for a minute. Cam Robinson's in year 8. So let's see them all together.
Yeah, obviously, you go back to what Press Taylor said, that everyone seems to understand the assignment of what we're supposed to be doing, what our objective is. But as he said, comes down to moving a guy from point A to point B, right? Because, okay, my assignment, I got you. Now, when I get you, what am I doing with you? Right? am I displacing you?
We're playing patty cake? Or
right. Are you pushing me back? Okay, it's great that I've got the assignment, but the execution of moving guys is a big thing. And, look, Anton Harrison may be the youngster here, JP, but I probably have more confidence in him than any of the projected starting offensive linemen to do his job at a high level this year.
And for the years to come, I mean, he's got futures bright after a really good performance last year, considering what he was playing with, the shoulder injury, and now he's healthy, and you heard his confidence there and his ability and his range and everything he can do. Only the arrow's going up for Anton Harrison. Let's go to defense now, and defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen this week explained how the defensive staff works on a preseason game plan and what it entails.
You don't want to lose the focus that it's about us. It's about Jacksonville. What you do want to focus on is kind of what it looks like. This is what a reach block looks like. This is what, a fade route looks like, or a particular route, a particular run play. But when you look at the league, it's a lot of the offenses are very similar, right? And so what we want to do is we want to show our players, here's what what it's going to look like. But hey, let's really focus on our alignments, our assignments, and our fundamentals, and how we have success versus these plays.
Yeah. So Ryan Nielsen's new defense. All right, they're going to get a half of action tonight with most of it. They roll some guys in on the defensive line, but this is a big test tonight.
Oh, it is. Look, Taylor Heineke may be third string, but he's started in this league. He's played a lot of football, but still, I don't want to see Taylor Heineke leading a bunch of Atlanta Falcon backups up and down the field in the first half of this game. So, Jeff and Tony were talking about last hour, there's a little bit of you can't win. I think you can. If you go out and look the part, and even if people say, well, that was against backups, but that's how you're supposed to handle that situation when you've got the more talented unit on the field. I think the Jags will have that. Will they execute and look like that tonight is the question.
We know all about the veteran players on the defensive line, but there's a rookie that's been turning heads this preseason. And it's defensive tackle Mason Smith, second-round pick out of LSU. He's put together a strong training camp and should play a role in this defensive front. And this week, he said he's in fantastic shape.
I definitely feel like I'm in the best shape of my life right now. Post injury. I feel like the last couple of games, my college career, I feel like it was pretty good. So just coming into this next level, I just wanted to continue on there, to continue to go in the right direction. But health-wise, I feel great. I'm a little bit heavy right now. I got to lose a couple of pounds, but I feel great. And like I said, it's the best I've felt since having my knee injury.
I feel you, Mason. I could lose a couple as well, but he's going to play a big role in this defense. And, he comes in, he's got the measurables, everything to go with it, the attitude to go with it, and the smarts in the classroom.
Right. And don't just box score watch on Mason Smith, because a lot of what defensive tackles do don't show up for them statistically necessarily, but Pro Football Focus, after 2 weeks, has rated him with the highest pass rush win rate of any interior rookie defensive lineman in the league. So he's beating guys. Now, you can have the pass rush win and the quarterback gets rid of the football. So he's not piling up big stats, but I think, if you look a little deeper on the film, he's had a pretty successful first couple of weeks.
Also on defense tonight, we'll get our first look in a game at Darnell Savage, who had been wearing the non-contact jersey, the Jaguars safety brought in free agency in the offseason. Jags fans can't make the game. We get it. You can easily donate your Jags tickets to VetTix, military veterans in the community, through the Jaguars ticketing account page. Select more on the ticket page and select the game you'd like to donate. VetTix, tickets for troops. Let's head to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. Kai Stevens, Jaguars reporter, joining us in the broadcast booth. And how's the scene in the Dome so far? Is the Oculus open or closed? What's the situation?
Everything's closed, but it's beautiful, and it's perfect weather because we're inside, so it's good.
Yeah, it is indoors. Certainly about that. It's a good thing about Atlanta. Fantastic facility there, of course. So, big story, of course. The starters on the field tonight, Kai, for almost a half, and we're going to get to see this offensive line and this quarterback together. I like it.
Yeah, obviously different philosophies on both sides of the sidelines, but the Jaguars are going to play their starters hopefully for the first half. Doug would like to see them for 2 quarters, and Trevor Lawrence talked a little bit earlier this week about this will be the first time he's playing with his full starting offensive line.
I don't get hit out here, and it's in the game. It's a different sense of urgency as far as my time clock, getting the ball out, and also just seeing different pressures and stuff. Because there's sometimes in practice you'll get beat on a pressure, like I don't see it, and they make us hot, and in practice it's like I'm hot. In the game, it's like I got to get out. I'm going to get smoked if I don't get out of here. So all those different things, it just feels different. So I think it's good to have your starting line and to feel the pocket and to move around and kind of test some of your protections as well. Like you do some new stuff, and you want to see how it holds up against a live look.
There's the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. Kai, it's a different reaction from the side as well. In the practice field, it's like, throw it, Trevor. Well, okay, he's fine. But in the game, it's like, Trevor, throw it. You got to throw it now because, yes, this guy is bearing down on you, and that is a different type of reel in a game.
There's some large humans running right at you. Yeah, it's different kind of pressure for sure. And as we've seen with Trevor, too, like he has to get used to the players in front of him because that trust factor needs to be there. We've seen different times where maybe the line wasn't holding up. Trevor gets spooked. He's running around. And then, there's ball security issues. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So they both need to get used to each other. And obviously with Mitch Morse, the new center on this team, they've talked about how crucial it is for them to play with each other so that they get everybody's timing down and how that takes a while. And because of injuries and whatnot so far in the season, we haven't seen it in a real game. So that alone will be interesting to see. And obviously they're not going against the first string of the Falcons. So hopefully things go well.
Yeah, no doubt. Quickly on the defensive side, what are you looking for tonight on that side of the football? What do you need to stand out? A couple guys kind of working through injury right now, but what do you expect tonight?
Yeah, I think you just want to see some significant pass rush, disrupting whoever's at quarterback at the time early in the game. And then later in the game, just those young guys, like you talked about Mason Smith, what he's been able to do just being a disruptor, because obviously he's not getting necessarily sacks every time, but just seeing his presence out there, a lot of the big guys in the middle. And then the secondary, I'm excited to see Darnell Savage. This will be the first game that he's playing. He had that red non-contact jersey. He was dealing with an injury, but he'll be in action tonight. So kind of seeing how they use him. I think he's going to be a nickel mostly, but just also kind of seeing Nielsen. Every time we go out, I'm interested to see what the defense is going to look like because I feel like Ryan Nielsen changes it every time. So That's always interesting.
Kai, great stuff. We'll talk to you again and countdown to kickoff in the final hour before tonight's opening kick. Have a good one.
Talk to you soon.
Kai Stevens from Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the home of the Falcons. And tonight, preseason week 3, the Jags and the Falcons coming up. We are closing in on what would be the inactives time. No official inactives in the preseason. Maybe we'll get a list of players not going in tonight's game. We'll find that out in just a little bit. We'll look around the league, and a conversation with third-year defensive end Trayvon Walker is coming up. Kickoff at 7 o'clock for the Jaguars and the Falcons, and this is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips. Delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages. And you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Attention Northeast Florida businesses. The Jaguars and Corporate Traveler are teaming up to bring you the Rising Business Spotlight Program. Get your business in front of 65,000 passionate fans at each Jaguars home game. It's your chance to shine with prime in-stadium exposure, an interactive activation space, and a powerful social media spotlight. Be one of the 6 selected small to medium-sized businesses to be showcased this season. Connect with new audiences like never before. Visit corporatetraveler.us/Jaguars. Don't miss out on this game-changing opportunity with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Corporate Traveler.
Who will your child grow up to be? Well, that depends on all of us. That's why, along with our groundbreaking medical care, Nemours Children's Health supports programs that address issues like food insecurity and the resources essential to learning. It's all part of creating a healthier future for all children, so they can grow up to be whoever they want to be. Nemours Children's Health. Well beyond medicine.
Hey fans, it's Tyson Campbell, cornerback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This season, your game day is getting even tastier with Al's Pizza in the stadium. And every time we get a pick, you'll score. If the Jaguars get one interception, you'll enjoy buy one, get one free pizza at any Al's Pizza location Monday through Thursday after the home game. 2 interceptions, a free dessert. And 3 interceptions, that's a free appetizer. Just tell them you want the Jags pick. Up your game and get your Al's Pizza at the game or any of their locations.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
What makes that famous call
"Dinner's ready"
even better? It's cooking a great meal with natural gas, enjoying faster cooking times and precise temperature control. And now getting a valuable cash rebate up to $300 when you install an energy-efficient natural gas range or cooktop.
Anyone want seconds?
When you show your home love with natural gas, it loves you right back. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios at the Miller Electric Center in Jacksonville. The Publix Tailgate show continues. We're closing in on preseason week 3. The Jacksonville Jaguars and the Atlanta Falcons. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta, the site. 7:06, the official kickoff time tonight. Let's go around the National Football League, Mike.
All right, JP, this is the third preseason game of week 3 that will kick off. It's the earliest one kicking off tonight. In the pair that we had last night, we alluded to this earlier, Anthony Richardson for the Colts in a 27-14 win over Cincinnati. Went 7 of 8 for 65 yards and a touchdown on the opening drive. Followed that up with 4 drives, cumulatively 1 for 6 for 21 yards and a pick 6. It may have been a miscommunication with the tight end. Could have been the tight end's fault. Regardless, through the pick 6, had another fumble that he was able to recover. So an auspicious start and inauspicious wrap-up for Anthony Richardson, of course, coming back after missing 13 games last year with a variety of injuries. Chicago knocked off Kansas City last night. Former St. Augustine High quarterback Austin Reed going 8 for 10 off the bench behind Tyson Bagent, who is likely the primary backup to Caleb Williams this year. Reed threw for 63 yards and a touchdown on his 10 attempts last night. Tonight, other teams in action include the Giants and the Jets going at it. Miami will be in Tampa to take on the Buccaneers. San Francisco in Vegas to take on the 49ers. All the rest of the preseason action will take place tomorrow. I guess a couple of games taking place on Sunday. Some NFL news of note in the last 36 hours or so. We saw an in-division trade, which is pretty rare, with Jahan Dotson, a first-round pick of the Washington Commanders just 2 years ago, gets sent along with a 5th-rounder to the Philadelphia Eagles, where he'll probably be their slot receiver this year, and the Eagles send a 3rd and a couple of 7th-round picks in return to Washington. I'm always suspicious when teams trade within the division. What does Washington know about Dotson that the Eagles don't know? And then that sparked the rumor of getting reignited last night that the Commanders may not be out of the Brandon Ayuk sweepstakes. But you got to consider, it's kind of odd because San Francisco has reportedly been looking to get a receiver back in any deal in which they were to deal Ayuk. Well, Dotson could have been that receiver. So you would think if Washington had something that was coming together with the San Francisco 49ers that they might have gone down that road. Former Jaguar Zay Jones, we found out just within the last hour or so, facing a 5-game suspension. Remember, he was charged initially, accused of misdemeanor domestic battery. After an investigation, charges were dropped against him, but the NFL, as is their wont to do, conducted their own investigation and found that whatever they found was significant enough to give Jones that 5-game suspension where he was expected to be, and still may be as the season plays out, probably the 3rd wide receiver behind rookie Marvin Harrison Jr. and 2nd-year pro Michael Wilson.
And, you know, I don't remember anything new happening off the field with him, but I haven't followed his stuff every day.
No, Tom Pelissero was the first one to report this, and he said this was a follow-up, that the league did a follow-up on the initial story. So, and people are reacting like, well, wait a minute. So the legal system says he didn't even commit a crime. He didn't even get charged with a crime, but the NFL's legal system has determined, and look, they got the authority to do it. JP, Roger Goodell can hand down suspensions practically on a whim if he wants to. I'm not saying this was on a whim. They obviously did an investigation, but Zay, who was a solid performer here in Jacksonville, won't be available for the Cardinals for the first month plus.
Here's your look around the National Football League in preseason week 3. And defensive end Trayvon Walker enters his third NFL season, the number 1 overall pick back in 2022. He's back in a true defensive end position in this 4-down lineman scheme, so hand-in-the-ground football for him. I talked to him this week, and certainly he's excited for that and to see this defense for more than just a couple drives tonight.
I definitely think that'll help us obviously continuously build our chemistry from what we did during camp, and just obviously seeing everybody go out there and put the pieces together as a whole, as a first-team defense, and some of the 2s and 3s mixed in there as well.
You talked earlier in camp about the idea of a different role for you in this defense, hand-in-the-ground type of thing. Is it coming back natural to you after the time at Georgia?
I definitely say once I first put my hand back in the dirt, it all came back natural. It's just obviously ironing out some of the wrinkles on just some small details, hand placement, things like that, getting my feet in the ground, driving on blocks, and just things of that sort. But like I say, it's all it never really left, and I'm just happy. I'm ready to get back playing the ball.
It seems like there's a lot of size around you. There was always big, but it feels like they got bigger this offseason, this defensive line as a whole. Even with new personnel, rookies coming in, how can that help up front when you got big bodies doing it big?
Man, that really can help. Obviously, number one, stop the run. Once we stop the run, then obviously we can get to go have fun and rush the passer. So obviously with a lot of the big guys, like I said, we just got to stop the run first and then go from there with the pass rush.
The run stopping thing, you can say it, then you got to go execute it too, but it's a mentality throughout the whole organization, right?
Most definitely. Stopping the run is more mental than physical. It's all about just a little small details, because we're all one big link, and it only takes one weak link to cause a leak or whatever it is, and that's what we got to all come together and make sure we're doing our individual job to make sure that we're doing the right thing to help all the guys flow on the back end.
Trayvon Walker with us. Give us an idea of how much different your body is going into this training camp, and how have you been able to learn how to play and run with maybe some added weight?
I say my body, me personally, I don't really feel too much of a difference, but obviously I have put on some weight. I can say I feel a lot more explosive, so my lower body, I definitely feel the strength in my lower body and obviously my upper body as well. But like I said a while back, I have been bigger than this before, and now it was just a matter of me getting back comfortable with that weight playing on me, and obviously getting into that condition shape to be able to consistently hold that weight and maintain playing in the game with it.
Josh Hines-Allen is another one who's gotten bigger this offseason. I know you guys did a lot of work together, so having that duo, that continuity together, you two, whether it be on both ends or somebody moving inside, that can only help when you two guys are working together in the offseason and behind the scenes.
Most definitely. Like we always work together ever since I first came in, but I wouldn't just say just me and Josh, but obviously, like you said earlier, the whole defensive line, we added a lot of size. There's a lot of guys up front that's been working this offseason with us as well, and I feel like all the work that we put in throughout the whole offseason, the whole D-line is going to reap the harvest from it, not just from me and Josh, but all of us playing together as one as a unit, and that's going to help each other make plays.
Final thought with you. What do you want to get out of this final preseason game? Last chance to get something out there before 16 days off before the first regular season game.
Me personally, I definitely just want to go out there and iron out any little wrinkles that I have had, any little concerns. Just want to play fast, physical, and obviously just continuously build that chemistry with the guys on the front end by being one link, and then obviously linking up with the guys on the back end. The rush complements the coverage, and the coverage complements the rush. So I'm just looking forward to all going out there and play for a good little minute to get all the, like I say, just continuously get the wrinkles out.
That's Trayvon Walker, defensive end. He and Josh Hines-Allen combined for a fantastic sack total last year, the best duo sack total in the league. And you know, he's got his head on straight. He's ready to roll, and he looks in great shape. He sounds like he's in great shape, and I think this new defensive scheme will give him a lot of different opportunities.
I think a lot of people are anticipating a breakout beyond. Like last year, you can consider a breakout. You hit double-digit sacks in your second season. You can look at it that way. But, he's a lot more comfortable. Like, last year, Trayvon, his longest answer would be about 8 or 9 seconds, right? To any question. He's just more comfortable. He's been around. He's acclimated, and now he can play more freely. And we ran a poll this week, JP. And you mentioned that combination of Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker, 27.5 sacks last year. 55% of the respondents expect 28+ this year.
Okay.
So it was only the league-leading total last year.
We want more.
Never mind that, guys like Eric Armstead may soak up some of those. But, hey, you know what? Nothing wrong with asking.
Yeah, absolutely. And he doesn't have to go out in coverage anymore. So there's that.
He loves that.
He does.
We've learned that. That's probably the most genuine emotion I think Trayvon has given in a press conference since he's been here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, looking forward to seeing what ideas they have for different packages, moving him inside some, maybe even Josh Hines-Allen moving that, depending on what kind of situation they're in. Because Trayvon Walker against a guard, that's a pretty good matchup for Trayvon Walker sometimes.
You can make a lot of great matchups. I bet they're, he use that quickness against the tackle, use the power against the guard, or whatever, or different combinations of that. I mean, and that's the beauty of the flexibility of all the different positions he played at Georgia. This will be kind of like second nature to him. But again, to your point, he's going to do it moving forward for the vast, vast majority of the time, which is pretty exciting for him and for us.
Trayvon Walker, Jaguars defensive end, 10 sacks a season ago, looking for a big breakout in 2024. Coming up, players who will not dress and play in tonight's game, plus a fantasy forecast. We'll hear from Frank Frangie in the broadcast booth. But up next, it's a pregame Huddle Up podcast. Bucky Brooks and John Oehser standing by in Atlanta. We're closing in on preseason week 3, a 7 o'clock kickoff time for the Jags and the Falcons. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips. Delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages. And you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Brooks Rehabilitation is proud to be the official rehabilitation partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We are here for them, and we are here for you. Ranked #1 physical rehabilitation hospital in Florida by U.S. News and World Report, our playbook is individualized treatment and exceptional care to get you back to living your life. Brooks has cutting-edge technology and therapy solutions in every care setting, treating sports injury, orthopedics, brain, spinal injuries, and more. Go beyond your expectations with Brooks Rehabilitation.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at EverBank Stadium because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQval for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbecue.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
Ready to fuel up for summer fun? Join the MyGate Rewards loyalty program and pump up the savings. This summer, become a new loyalty member and save 25 cents per gallon on your first fill-up. Already a member? Now you can earn rewards 10 times faster. For every $10 spent in store, save 5 cents per gallon at the pump. Stop by Gate today to crank up your summer savings. Offer ends August 31st, 2024.
Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in Miami and Houston. Watch them win in Philly, Detroit, Nashville, and Las Vegas. All the other Jaguars games are just one short connection away. And if airport parking has you stressed, be sure to visit the Jax Airport website before traveling to the terminal. On it, you'll find information about the status of on-airport parking in real time. See if your favorite areas are available or if you need to call an audible. Visit flyjax.com for more information.
JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios at the Miller Electric Center in Jacksonville. The Publix Tailgate Show continues. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. The Jaguars and the Falcons kick it off. Preseason Week 3, 7:06 the official kickoff time tonight. The 2024 season is almost here. You don't want to miss the matchups this season. And whether you want to become a season ticket member, catch 3 or more games with Bundle at the Bank, or experience the season with Proud Pass, there's a plan for every fan. Get locked in at jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000. Well, let's take a look at some of the Jaguars players who are not expected to go in tonight's game. C.J. Beathard, of course, with a groin injury. We understand he is making the trip, though, to be part of the team tonight. He'll be on the sideline. Christian Kirk, wide receiver, with a calf issue. Nothing too major, nothing long-term, at least is what we're hearing. Daniel Thomas with a heel injury has had a boot on the last couple of days. But, again, that should not be a long-term issue as well. Foye Oluokun been battling a hamstring injury, was doing some individual work at practice but not team drills, but being held out. Keelan Robinson hasn't really practiced yet at all, the rookie running back. Tashawn Gibson not ready to go yet. And Eric Armstead will not play in tonight's game.
Yeah, for the Falcons, completely opposite here, JP, is they're benching basically all their starters, even some of their key backups. It was announced last week that Michael Penix Jr. wouldn't play anymore in the preseason. Of course, they drafted him 8th overall after signing Kirk Cousins to a big free agent deal to play quarterback for them. So that prompted a lot of speculation. Are they just afraid of injury? Are they afraid that Penix might look so good that the fans start clamoring for the young guy? All kinds of different things. But the way D'Orlando Ledbetter put it, he's been covering this team for a long time for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Falcon fans will see players battling for back-end roster spots and practice squad invitations. That's the level of player that we're expected to see on the field for the majority of the time tonight from Atlanta.
All right. There's your opportunity, Jaguars, to get it done tonight.
Let's look good.
There's the players that are out for tonight's game in Atlanta. And let's go there now. Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the broadcast booth. It's a pregame huddle up with Bucky Brooks and John Oehser. Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are we today?
Well, they may be out, but we're in. Me and Bucky are all in. So
Great.
We're ready to go.
That's all we need. That's all we need is you two guys. All right, so let's get to it. The offense, the offensive line has really been a big topic the last couple of weeks. Haven't seen them together. You know, there's been 3 guys played week 1, 9 snaps. 2 guys played last week. This is the first time, Bucky, to see all 5 together. What do you need to see tonight from this group?
You just want to see them play together. You want to see them develop that chemistry and continuity that's going to be needed for the team to play at a high level. They haven't played a lot, and the offensive line is different than any other unit on the team. Like, all 5 has to play as one, and so they have to be on a string. They have to be able to finish each other's sentences and have excellent nonverbal communication. And the only way you can really seal the deal when it comes to those things, you got to play together. So that's why it's important that these guys play a half together.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like cramming for a test. This is their one shot to do it before Miami. A couple of the guys were out preseason week 1. Obviously, you can't simulate everything in a game, but a lot of these guys have gotten a lot of snaps together during camp. They've rotated guys in and out, but this first-team line has played a lot together during camp. But this is the first, and it's definitely the storyline that more fans who write me are concerned, panicked, don't think it's real, whatever. So it's the hot button issue entering the season. So we'll see how they do tonight.
And John, no matter how they do tonight, I think some fans will look at it and say, well, you're going against backups, right? So my question would be, how do you judge success when you've got a bunch of guys on the other team or struggling to impress, want to make that big hit, that highlight play to get on the radar to either make that team or some other team out there? How do you balance that when you want to get some good work for your starters?
Well, I think, how do you judge success for the Jaguars offensive line? I as you said, I don't know that anybody who doesn't want to believe they're going to be good is going to believe it based on playing backups. So you want to look as good as you can look against who you're playing. You can't control that. So I think it sounds like a cliche, but you work on yourself. You do the best you can under the circumstances, get all those game reps, and forget what everybody's saying about you, because they're going to continue to speculate until week 1.
Yeah, no, I think it's a lot similar to what Brian Nelson always says. He talks about it's about us. It's about what we do, playing to their own standards. So it doesn't really matter who the Falcons trot out there. If the Jaguars are executing at a high level and they're moving the ball down the field and it looks like it should look, meaning high-level football where the execution is really, really solid, then it doesn't matter who they play. I think it's really about focusing on how the Jaguars look, what does it look like when we finish the game. Did they have, solid drives? Did they finish drives? Did they play good defense and tackle well? If they did those things, they accomplished everything they wanted to out of this last preseason game.
But, guys, you'll know what I'm saying. Please don't let it look like it shouldn't look.
Yeah, you'll know it when you see it,
right.
And you don't want to see it. That's for sure. Bucky Brooks and John Hosier joining us from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. And, Bucky, you mentioned Ryan Nielsen's defense, and, yes, it's all about them and what they're doing and how they're executing. I mean, we can discuss week 1 when Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert are on the other side. It might be a little bit about those other guys that week. But I get what he's saying this time of year, right? You just got to get the basics right of where to be, when to be there in this new scheme. And how do you think they've transitioned so far?
I think it's been great. I think it's been the perfect marriage of system and player. The young players, meaning the core players for the Jags, they really fit in well with this defense. And Ryan Nielsen is right. Everything that we've seen is about simplicity and about allowing the players to play fast. And I don't think it's going to change when it gets to the regular season. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of tricks and gimmicks and gadgets to what they do. I think they're going to try and really focus on out-executing the opponent. And this is that final, they didn't want to call it a dress rehearsal, but it's the final dress rehearsal where you can go out there and kind of get it together and kind of work out all the kinks. But the defense has been solid. You can tell the way they are finishing tackles and how aggressive they've been in terms of just running to the ball. I would say so far so good for the defense.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward tonight to watching a little Darnell Savage. Haven't seen him at all in this scheme. I'm pretty confident I know what the defensive front's going to look like. I know Eric Armstead and Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen and Devon Hamilton. I know those guys can play. So it'll be interesting to watch a linebacking core tonight without Foye, with Devin Lloyd, with Ventrell Miller, with Chad Muma, who I feel like those 3 guys are guys that they like a lot, who it's big years for them in this scheme. So watching them a little bit tonight, I kind of want to see if those guys on the back end look comfortable in this tonight.
Guys, each give us, if you would, a guy you feel is on the roster bubble that you'll be watching tonight to see if he can make a move to make the 53.
Let's go to wide receiver. I'm going to go Elijah Cooks. I think he and Tim Jones are battling for that last spot and trying to figure out which one is going to be good enough to make special teams contributions to stay around. So that's the battle I'm watching.
Yeah, I'll go Jalen Jackson at running back. I kind of think usually we say roster spot last season. I don't know if it ever really comes down to this last game, but I certainly appreciate the question. I'll go with Jackson because I do feel like an argument can be made that he has looked really good at time. He's splashed. Does he earn a job over Dearness Johnson, something like that? I think that's worth watching, although I think most of these guys we talk about will wind up on the practice squad.
And then Tony and Jeff earlier were talking about the roster numbers on the offensive line. Do they keep 9 or 10? If you're keeping 10, what do you take away? And, the depth of that group will be something to watch tonight as well in the second half for sure.
Yeah, I kind of think they keep 10 there. But so we'll see. I just think there's guys they want to keep who may not contribute immediately.
We'll see. I guess we will see in the second half tonight. Those guys trying to make that roster and get things done. And one more thought here on the return game. Devin Duvernay's the main returner. He's not doing much of that at all, really, in the preseason. So you got that spot down. Is there like a lead horse on the other return spot on the kickoffs for you yet, or have you seen enough to make a decision there, or could it be by a group? Maybe they just roll guys out there.
Look, I think they want it to be Keelan Robinson, but he hasn't been active.
Look, out of sight, out of mind.
Who do you like,
really.
Tank or Parker back there, Becky?
I mean, I like Parker. Like, obviously, I'm going to take the big play specialist. He had a 74-yard one to set it up. And
Tank had a 44-yarder, though.
Yeah, 74.
Right there with
like my North Carolina math suggests that 74 is greater than 41.
But
so
you were talking about the quarterback week one, and we asked you not to.
But I want look, I think with Parker Washington, you want to give him every opportunity to touch the ball. I think he's proven to be a pretty dynamic player. And depending upon how big the role is going to be for Tank, I think you can preserve him by keeping him on the sidelines doing kickoff return and allow Parker Washington to handle some of those duties. But
it's kind of cool, guys. Don't you feel like once Keelan Robinson gets back, you got 4 guys who you legitimately think can make plays back there, and that feels like pretty good depth to me back there for that reason.
Well, I think it's definitely a deeper team, and Keelan Robinson will have to show us kind of like when they just drop him in, if he can do some of those things that we speculate. But I know those 3 that we've talked about, they certainly are really, really good at what they're doing.
All right, fellas, have a great evening at Mercedes-Benz Stadium inside in Atlanta tonight, and we'll talk to you very soon. Appreciate it.
Guys, thanks.
Bucky Brooks, John Ozier from Atlanta, and check out the weekly Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks show Wednesdays, 4 o'clock on Jaguars.com and the Jags YouTube channel. We're closing in on Jaguars Radio Network coverage. Countdown to kickoff starts at 6 o'clock, inside 20 minutes from now. Up next, a fantasy forecast and Frank Frangie in the broadcast booth in Atlanta. The Jaguars and the Falcons coming up in preseason week 3. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense, a rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
Who will your child grow up to be? Well, that depends on all of us. That's why, along with our groundbreaking medical care, Nemours Children's Health supports programs that address issues like food insecurity and the resources essential to learning. It's all part of creating a healthier future for all children. So they can grow up to be whoever they want to be. Nemours Children's Health, well beyond medicine.
Feeling hungry, Jaguars fans? Fuel your Duval energy with a delicious Stallmeyer all-beef hot dog on game day as you support your Jacksonville Jaguars. Whether you're at the game or at home, it's not game day without a Stallmeyer all-beef hot dog made in Florida. Stallmeyer all-beef hot dogs will fuel your energy to help bring on a victory for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stallmeyer all-beef hot dogs are available at your local Publix supermarkets. Don't feel hungry, Jaguars fans. Fuel your energy with the official hot dog of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stallmeyer. UNF is a top public university committed to serving the region, a place where visionary minds come together to create effective solutions. With more than 70% of their graduates working in the area, UNF is North Florida's university, offering 100-plus majors, affordable tuition, and programs in high-demand fields. Soar into your future at UNF. Visit unf.edu to learn more. Attention Northeast Florida businesses. The Jaguars and Corporate Traveler are teaming up to bring you the Rising Business Spotlight Program. Get your business in front of 65,000 passionate fans at each Jaguars home game. It's your chance to shine with prime in-stadium exposure, an interactive activation space, and a powerful social media spotlight. Be one of the 6 selected small to medium-sized businesses to be showcased this season. Connect with new audiences like never before. Visit corporatetraveler.us/Jaguars. Don't miss out on this game-changing opportunity with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Corporate Traveler.
This is the Publix Tailgate Show. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey. We're at the Hyundai Studios at the Miller Electric Center in Jacksonville. The Jaguars and the Falcons coming up in Atlanta. Kickoff just after 7 o'clock at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You're invited to a very special evening with John Legend, live in concert at Daly's Place tomorrow night, August 24th. And don't miss this very special, intimate performance. For tickets and info, visit dailysplace.com. Busy week at Daly's Place. Jane's Addiction later this week. A lot of great shows in the coming weeks at Daly's Place. About a fantasy forecast in preseason week 3.
Let me just mention I saw Jane's Addiction in 1990, so I've got that covered. I appreciate it.
I won't tell you what grade I was in.
I was not. I was just wrapping up college, and that was Lollapalooza, I believe, year 1, JP, back in the day. Not a lot of movement on the Jaguar front in the kind of the stock market of pricing for fantasy drafts, which right now we're in fantasy draft overdrive at this point. I've got one tomorrow at 10 a.m., got a bunch more coming up, including 3 of the week of the first kickoff game. But prices holding pretty steady on the Jaguar players. We've been going over this the last couple weeks. Travis Etienne going right inside the second round, 22nd overall in a 12-team league. He's the 10th running back off the board. Contrast that with Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons. I've seen him go as high as number 2 overall. Haven't seen him go 1, but I've heard that some people have taken him over Christian McCaffrey. He's officially coming off the board 7th behind McCaffrey and Breece Hall as the 3rd running back being selected. And Drake London also being chosen before any Jaguar comes off the board with the 18th pick. He's wide receiver 11. A lot of people think that Kirk Cousins coming in is really going to spark a renaissance in the offense for the Atlanta Falcons. That includes Kyle Pitts, who is being drafted as tight end 7, 1 spot ahead of Evan Ingram. Pitts going 59th overall, just inside the 5th round. Evan Ingram more a middle of the 6th round guy. And one thing Kirk Cousins has done, he has always had great production from his tight ends when he stayed healthy, so I kind of understand that one. Outside of that, Cousins going after Trevor Lawrence. You get Trevor Lawrence as quarterback 16, which is appropriate for the uniform number. Cousins is quarterback 18 in fantasy circles these days. Tyler Algier seen as a pretty good handcuff option to Bijan Robinson. Had a productive year for himself last year, going in the 140s, right around the Gabe Davis range. And then Darnell Mooney, I think, is a really nice sleeper. A former 1,000-yard receiver for the Chicago Bears, has never really had good quarterback play or consistent quarterback play. You can get him practically free at pick 156, and that is going as wide receiver 66. So, again, that's a wide receiver 6 if you're building a 12-team league.
Who's the number 1 quarterback? Lamar in fantasy?
Josh Allen. Josh Allen. Yeah, Josh Allen's been that guy basically for about 4 years running. He's finished either 1 or I think 2, mostly finishing as QB1. In fact, we're talking about this today. Anthony Richardson typically goes 5th or 6th because it's that rushing ability that everyone's looking for. The upside, the quarterbacks going ahead of him consistently are all guys with good wheels. Mahomes may be a little bit of an exception. He doesn't run a ton, but he will run for scores on occasion. But Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson also going up there in that top 4. And along those lines, people are waiting a little bit longer, taking Kyler Murray, or waiting even a little bit longer than that and taking shots on the rookie Jaden Daniels in Washington, because that running ability in a quarterback is a force multiplier in fantasy.
Yeah, until he gets blasted the first time.
Well, he
as a
definitely
rookie.
does not know how to get down yet.
You know what I mean?
That's been evident. And I'm glad they're not playing him in preseason week 3 that the Commanders have announced.
No doubt. We are closing in on Countdown to Kickoff on the Jaguars Radio Network, presented by the University of Florida, the number 1 university in the U.S. News and World Report's number 1 state for education. Let's head to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta, Georgia, and welcome in Jags play-by-play announcer Frank Frangie ahead of preseason week 3, and we got some things to watch tonight, Frank, finally.
Yeah, we do. Hello, JP, to you and Mike, and you're exactly right. We get to watch some starters, and according to Doug Peterson, it's going to be about a half. I was kidding with him earlier. I said, a half's good, so what if they score in their first 3 possessions? He said, about a half. So I think he wants them to play 2 quarters, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Offensive line has been the big topic today and on the past number of days, weeks, whatever it is. I mean, it's a concern for a lot of folks that follow the Jaguars. Did they do enough? Well, we'll find that out, I think, as the season goes along. But tonight you're going to see all 5 starters together for the first time in a game. And what do you expect to see tonight?
No, you're exactly right, JP. That's the question. And look, you hope you're not as worried about the tackles. Cam Robinson and Anton Harrison, when healthy, that's a good twosome, I would think. People are worried about the interior. Ezra Cleveland, Mitch Morse, Brandon Sheriff will all start together tonight. And I almost think, in fairness, until they've proven it's better, you got to wonder. I think that's a fair question. I hope it's better. I expect them to be good tonight. They're going to be playing against some backups. They're together for the first time. I think coaches like the fact that they like this group. I think they like the group they've built. But you're right, running the ball, 3rd and short's going to be fun to watch tonight, JP. Protection for Trevor is important tonight and fun to watch. But that's the big question. I think that's the group everybody has some questions about, and we'll get to see them tonight.
Man, I hope 3rd and short is fun to watch.
Oh,
tonight.
yeah, it better be. Yeah.
I mean, I really do. Frank, not every starter available for the Jags. We know Christian Kirk dealing with what has been described as kind of a mild calf strain. So Parker Washington gets an elevated opportunity. He's looked good through 2 preseason games. What are you hoping to see from him tonight?
Boy, he has looked good, Mike, hasn't he? I think Tank Bigsby and Parker Washington have had what I think are the best off seasons of anybody from guys we didn't know as much about or aren't starters. So I think he's going to be very active tonight. Listen, he's going to start in that slot because Christian isn't here. Trevor likes the middle of the field. I think my guess is and my hope is because Gabe Davis and particularly Brian Thomas Jr. are deep threats that they haven't had before. Those crossers are going to be there, Mike, more than they've been there in a while. I think you might see a bunch from Parker Washington tonight. I think the guy in that spot, the guy running those crossers, the slot guy, is going to be very active this year because I think they're going to be able to throw the ball deep some and clear those areas out. And I'll bet you see Parker's been good the whole preseason. I'll bet he's good again tonight.
Frank Frangie in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, ahead of the Jags and the Falcons in preseason week 3. Now to the defensive side, Frank, and Foye Lukin will not play in tonight's game. He's been battling a hamstring this week and a hamstring issue this week. And all right, so next man up. Who's calling the plays on defense today?
Yeah, my guess is the green dot will go to Devin Lloyd. I don't know that it'll either be he or Muma. They're both going to start the game. I'm all kind of okay with that. You want to see the whole defense together, right? We all do. But you know what Foye can do. He's playing the weak side now. Everybody knows that now. Devin Lloyd's going to be the Mike linebacker, even though Foye's still going to have the green dot. I want to see what both Lloyd and Muma, both playing a half of the game, can do. I think there's really been a pretty good battle between those guys. Maybe a better battle than people think. You know what Foye can do. I'm going to be interested to watch those guys. But the linebacker position is very interesting, JP, to your point, because Devin Lloyd's playing a new position. Chad Muma's had a very good camp and a very good preseason, I think. Ventrell Miller started to flash a little bit. He's the backup middle linebacker. You're going to see Yasir Abdullah start the game tonight. He's going to start at that Sam tonight because Devin and Chad are going to be in those 2 inside spots. So there's a lot of moving pieces for that linebacking core, and that's going to be fun to watch.
Frank, all these positions are interconnected because if you take one extra at one spot, you got to take one away somewhere else. But where do you think the toughest cut or cuts will come? Which position group?
Offensive line first and foremost, Mike. I think you got the 5 starters. My guess is Walker Little and Luke Fortner are 6 and 7. Then I think he gets a little bit tough. Cole Van Lanen has had a really good camp, Mike. People are raving about the camp he's had. Cooper Hodges is their right guard of the future. I think people think that. And Blake Hansen's been pretty good. He's an NFL player. Well, you can't keep them all. And you drafted Javon Foster, who someone probably will pick up. So I think they're keeping 9, which means I just named 11. If you count the starters, 2 of those guys don't make the team. So I think that's the big cut. I think that's a tough cut. Wide receiver, I think Elijah Cooks is probably a better wide receiver than Tim Jones. I think Tim Jones is probably a better special teams player. So I think that's in play. And you got a bunch of cornerbacks too, Mike, and you can't keep them all. So I think those are the areas that are going to be the toughest cuts for Doug Peterson.
You know what, though, Frank? I mean, this feels like we've had teams around here in the past where there's like 4 undrafted rookies that make the team, or 3, right? I mean, That's not happening this year. This is a veteran team that, has 2 years ago into the playoffs, and they doubled down on it. I mean, this is a tough team to make. This is a veteran group.
I don't think there's any question, JP. I've been saying this on our radio show and elsewhere. I think it's the best roster in my 11 years of calling these games. I think it's the best, including even the 18 team when they started that season. For me, it's the most complete roster they've had in my years of doing this. Yeah, they're going to cut good players. They're going to cut some players who are going to wind up on other teams.
Yeah.
And that hasn't always been the case. I think you're dead on.
And they might go get some other players from waivers from other teams. I mean, they could churn the bottom of this thing or the middle, whatever it is, in the coming week, because the rosters are due down to 53 by Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Frank, have a great call in Atlanta, and we'll talk to you.
All right, fellas, thank you.
Frank Frangie joining us from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, that's the deadline, and then the business begins. Everybody goes to the waiver process, or guys that aren't veterans, and then you can go claim players, make trades. You can do all that stuff. You got 16 days between games.
Got to impress the eye in the sky, JP. That's what they always say, whether it's for the team you're currently on the roster of or some other team that wants to come along and give you an opportunity.
Up next, it's Jaguars Radio Network coverage, countdown to kickoff. We'll have the top stories of the day. Fred Taylor joins us as well. And the final word before kick with Doug Peterson, just over an hour away from preseason week 3. This has been the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.